So hey guys, and welcome back to Vita versus 3DS. So first and foremost, I want to apologize for the small hiatus that I took of a few weeks. It's a combination of I went on vacation, I went to Toronto, I had a great time, and also there's just like last year, there's a summer gaming lull like there is every year, and there's not much released in the summer, so there wasn't much for me to do in terms of talking about new games or reviews and stuff like that, which more reviews are coming, but they'll mostly be for older games. But I wanted to make this video just before I jump back into reviewing and doing some comparisons to just talk about a few fanboy misconceptions that I feel that, or misconceptions that a lot of fanboys have to the competing products that they're fanboys of, or competing companies. So there's two major arguments. There's tons of them that I can do, and I've seen a bunch of them, especially having this channel and having access to many awesome subscribers. But a lot of people that are on my videos obviously are fanboys that come to argue and come to, which is fine. But like when you're arguing, try to stay. Try to make valid points, is what I'm saying. So there's two major arguments, one from the 3DS fanboy side and one from the Vita fanboy side, or from the Sony side or the Nintendo side as a whole, that I just see all the time. So I want to address them both because I think they're both huge misconceptions. So we're first going to start with the argument that a lot of Sony fanboys have used against Nintendo products. And the main argument that I see, the one that I see the most, is that Nintendo only rehashes their games. That's all they do, and that's what a big part of what they're saying. So an example of this would be like for example, a Sony fan claims that Nintendo keeps using the same characters and franchises and rarely risks anything creating new IPs and such. So what I would say to this is that while Nintendo does rely heavily on their established characters, I would challenge the notion that they rehash their franchises any more than Sony does. So, for example, since 2007, a year after, or not long after the Wii came out, we've only had 3D Mario games. So 2007 was 6 years ago. It's a long time ago, and we only had 3D Mario games: Mario Galaxy 1, Mario Galaxy 2, and Super Mario 3D Land. In that time, we have had 4 Uncharted games: Uncharted 1, 2, 3, and Golden Abyss, not to mention some spin-off Uncharted stuff like the card game on Vita or the comic book. Like, we've had a lot of Uncharted stuff. 4 Ratchet games on PS3 alone. We've had the Tools of Destruction, Quest for Booty. What's the other one called? The one after, they had another one, and then now they have Into the Nexus coming out now. We've had 3 Resistance games, 3 Killzone games, 3 God of War games, etc. So people, and not to mention that, like Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 may be similar, but Super Mario 3D Land is very different in terms of art style, gameplay, scope than the Mario Galaxy games. It's a new series as far as I'm concerned, and if you look at all the Uncharted games, they're all more or less the same. As much as I love the Uncharted games, all the Resistance games are very similar. All the Killzone games, at least the last 3, Killzone 2, Killzone 3, and Killzone Mercenary, are all very similar. All the God of War games are very similar, much more similar than the Mario games. So, the Gran Turismo is another example. Like, I don't understand where a lot of Sony fans are coming from when they say that Nintendo only rehashes their franchises. That's, first of all, it's not all they do, and second of all, how do they rehash their franchises any more than Sony does? That criticism just does not make sense to me at all, because everybody rehashes their stuff, and I do understand that Nintendo relies heavily on their established characters. Like, there might not be a ton of 3D Marios, but Mario's in a lot of their games. Like, I understand that. If that's the criticism, then great. But like, they do it because they can, because Mario's popular. And Mario Kart doesn't play like Mario Golf, which doesn't play like Mario Tennis, which doesn't play like a 2D Mario, which doesn't play like a 3D Mario. They're all different games. If you're tired of Mario, that's different. But Nintendo does shake it up a lot, and they do have a lot of different types of franchises and gameplay, and they don't rehash as much as a lot of other companies do, and I would argue that they rehash less than Sony does. Anyway, so that's my rant about that. Now, let's talk about the rant that a lot of Nintendo fanboys have had on this site. And mind you, this has toned down a little bit, but a huge one that has been popular for so long is that Sony always copies Nintendo. And this has been a big Nintendo fanboy claim probably since like 2006, that Sony always copies Nintendo. So I would address this by saying, while Sony indeed cashed in on a lot of popular trends that others have made popular, PlayStation Move, for example, is the most recent and shameless example. Three things must be said here, so I'm going to address this with three things. First and foremost, it's business. It's not about being original. It's about making money and giving people what they want. So I would say, like, for example, a lot of people say like trophies are a shameless copy or a lot of people said before, trophies are a shameless copy of achievements on Xbox. Are they? Absolutely. But people wanted them. PlayStation 3 owners who did not have an Xbox and didn't want an Xbox wanted that. And people love trophies today. No one's saying anything bad about trophies today. So, like, I just really don't, like it's business. And like, I'm happy there's trophies there because I like collecting trophies. Like, if I didn't have them, I would be sad. Who cares who they're copying, or who cares if they copied something or did something someone else did first? And a lot of Xbox fans and Xbox, Microsoft themselves never even addressed this. It's really just a Nintendo fan mentality that Sony copies. Like, I don't see a lot of people really harping about that. So number two is that Sony files for patents for a ton of things and have been doing things for that many people think that they're copying from Nintendo longer than Nintendo has been doing them. So they file patents, like, for example, they file patents for many things way in advance and don't use them until they become viable or until they become popular. So like another example is like the iToy for PS2. Those are motion controls. And a lot of people, they don't remember that was motion control gaming back in the day. And they did that long before Nintendo ever, had made the Wii or popularized that. Now, don't get me wrong, Move is a shameless ripoff of Wiimote, and as I said before, it is. But Sony had, it's not like Sony would have completely dropped motion controls completely. They wouldn't have. So another thing, and lastly, like, Sony is one of the most risky and innovative publishers or console makers out there, period. That can be denied, and just creating this sort of identity for them, like they copy everything, is just wrong. So an example of this, for example, just look at the Vita itself. There's so many firsts for this machine. So when it came out, it was likely the most powerful mobile device for gaming ever. It was the first one with two sticks. PSP was the first one with one stick, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure, maybe there was another one, but it was first to popularize it. This is the first with two sticks. It's the first with a friends list, integrated friends list. It's the first with so many features like Twitter, Skype, Facebook, all these features. It's the first with a back touch. It's the first with a capacitive touchscreen in the front. There's so many firsts about this device, so many original things. Like no other device that I know of ever had a back touch panel. And sure, maybe it's not used that well so far. There have been a few good uses, of course, like Little Big Planet, but it hasn't been used like greatly so far. And sure, it's not like an amazing feature, but these are still innovative features. And all of a sudden, all Nintendo fanboys shut up about that. They don't talk about it anymore when that's mentioned. But it's really important to acknowledge when Sony is being innovative. And also the PS4, for example, the share button, the the streaming, the remote play between the devices. Sony was the first to do that, and there's so many firsts for Sony. They're innovative. And then not to mention their indie stance, or making games like Heavy Rain, or Indigo Prophecy, or supporting all these crazy, wacky indies that no other developer really is supporting. Like, Sony innovates. They really do. And this whole thing that Sony just copies, that really has to go away, because it's just absolutely not true. Anyway, so, that was my rant. People really need to understand that Nintendo doesn't just, they do rely on their franchises a lot, but, they do make a lot of new franchises when they can, and they do, their series evolve very well and are very different from one another, even if they use the same characters, and Sony doesn't copy at all. So anyway, I'm going to go back to working on my Resident Evil Revelations review, and I'm also going to do a quick video with talking about mobile gaming and Android gaming and stuff like that, and how it compares to 3DS and Vita gaming. So thanks very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye.